What's up everyone, my name's Alpha and today we're back with another Pokemon challenge video. Today we're on Pokemon Infinite Fusion and today's challenge, we won't do a model type, we actually do something very fun. Today's challenge will be, can I be Pokemon Infinite Fusion using only Garchomp fusions? Such a random Pokemon as Garchomp is because he's kind of my favorite Pokemon. Because it's actually my favorite Pokemon. Of every single Pokemon in the entire game, in the franchise of Pokemon, Garchomp is my single favorite Pokemon. And I want to do a video on him. So, it's a little fun video for myself. I hope you guys all will enjoy this video and come along with me. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's lay out the ground rules. Obviously, the rules of this video, I can only use Pokemon that are fused with the Garchomp lineage. I'm not going to give myself a Garchomp to start the game off. That's a little bit cheating. I'm going to give myself a custom starter Pokemon, which is going to be a Gibble, and then from there I can only use Pokemon that are fused with my Gibble, and I can't use any other Pokemon besides those. And also I'm playing on the hardest difficulty that's allowed in the game. We're also going to add some more rules. We can't use bag items, you use held items, and you have to play on set mode, so it's going to be a lot more difficult as we can get through. There will actually be one extra fun rule on top of this video. Each of my Pokemon will be nicknamed after you guys in the comments, so thanks so much for leaving a nickname in my previous challenge video. If you guys want to be nicknamed after your future Pokemon, just drop in the comments and hopefully I'll pick yours. And while it's down there, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me. Let's get into the challenge video itself. So to begin off with, obviously we're gonna give ourselves a Gibble, which even though we lose to our rival at the first battle in the game, it's fine. We're gonna move on. We're gonna slowly train up our Gibble because we need the levels. Once we get to level 7 though, that's the sweet spot because that's when we're gonna get Dragon Rage. Very broken move in the early game. It does 40 damage constantly, and you can see from my HP bar, don't have 40 HP. So the first Pokemon we can go out and catch is gonna be a Teddy Ursa. Now I have no reason to catch Teddy Ursa at all. I decided to catch a Teddy Ursa and use it on my team is because I like Ursa Ring as a Pokemon, and now I'm gonna fuse it together with my Gibble. So that's gonna be a fun Pokemon to use for a little bit. It's gonna be normal and ground. Teach our Gibby Ursa, teach our Gibby Ursa Mud Slap, and also try to train up our Pokemon as we're gonna face off against Brock next. Brock actually is pretty difficult challenge. I keep fighting him using Mud Slap. I get -6 on his accuracy, and he still hits all his moves. So we're gonna have to be very careful as we face off against Brock. We're gonna easily one-shot his Shroomy Yard with Dragon Rage, which is pretty free. Then his Steve Jr. comes out, his Steelix and Mime Jr. So we have to Mud Slap. This is always the go-to strategy of facing off against Brock. Just use Mud Slap, and eventually he will miss all his moves, and we're able to beat him with our Gibby Ursa. Now from there, we're gonna breeze through Mount Moon. I would say breeze, but there's a lot of fairy Pokemon. But once we get through Mount Moon, we're gonna face off against well, we're gonna try to face off against Misty's gym. We went into there, we got messed up, and we face off against a rival north of Sarun City, and we still get messed up. Dragon Rage is a great move, but my Pokemon right now isn't that great, so I decided to go back in the grass. I wanted to catch a Speed Boost Yama, but then a Heracross showed up, and I'm like, of course I'm gonna take that instead. So I caught myself a Heracross, which is a fully evolved Pokemon. I can unfuse my Gibby Ursa and then fuse together my Heracross and Gibble to get myself a Gibcross, and then face off against Misty next. Misty's a pretty easy gym fight. We're gonna start the battle off using my Gabcross. Gabcross is able to go for a dual chop and knock out the Glarogue pretty easily, and then her next Pokemon will be a Manrus, which I'm able to go for a Dragon Rage to not activate the Citrus Berry on purpose, and then use a Rock Tomb Rock Gem boosted to knock out Misty, and we got our second gym badge in the game pretty easily. Now from there, we can finally head into Vermilion City, and this is peak. Finally. So first thing we want to do is actually head into Diglett Cave and then start hunting out here. Now I use the Gyarados because it's a flying Pokemon, like it's levitating from the floor, so I don't get stuck on an arena trap and then have to face off against the Diglett. So don't count as cheating. I'm just trying to encounter some Gibbles and capture them. So we're gonna have to encounter ourselves 5 different Gibbles, and they're only a 5% encounter rate. It's actually not too difficult. We eventually got all the Gibbles we need within like 35 minutes, so it's a little time consuming, but we got it done though. So which is nice. We got ourselves a bunch of Gibbles, and now we can move on and face up against Lieutenant Surge. Next, I have a full team of Gabites, as you can see, but I'm just gonna use my Gabcross because I'm pretty confident with my Gabcross because he's pretty good. Lieutenant Surge can start the battle off against us using a Nose Key, which I'm able to one-shot it or two-shot it with Dual Chop, and then his next Pokemon will be a Houndlade. I decided to go for a Rock Tomb, trying to lower his speed, but he can't do too much damage as he goes for a Bite, and then Brick will knock him out, and his final Pokemon will be a Fletch and Chop, which I'm able to go for a Dual Chop and knock him out. A lot of chopping over there. From there, we're gonna actually go back into Viridian Forest, complete this little quest line, and you can get yourself an old Amber, which unfortunately you can only recover that in Cinnabar Island. So it's gonna be a long time until we get that, but at least we have it for now. From there, we can move on into Rock Tunnel, clear through Rock Tunnel, which is easy, and our Gap Cross is getting a little lonely and a little bit too high in the level, so I decided to go into Celadon City and finally get some new Pokemon. Firstly, we can get ourselves a Scyther. We can combine that with one of our Gabites just to make a Gather. That's what it's called, a Gather. But from there, we're also gonna get our Eevee and then combine that with our Gabite. We're gonna get ourselves an E-Bite. Okay, an E-Bite. It's funny looking, but it actually saved the day as we face off against Giovanni in the sewers. We're able to clean through his team just because it's a normal type, so that's pretty good for us as we're able to beat down Giovanni, then face off against the next gym leader in the game. We're able to face off against Erika. Erika's the 4th gym leader in the game. She can start the battle off against us using a Typter. Typter is gonna be a fire and bug type, most likely, I assume. Firefly, maybe Fireflying, but we take a Flame Wheel from it and then Rock Tomb will one-shot it easily. So it was 4 times weak either way, and their next Pokemon will be a Galvantron, which I take a Dizzy Punch and then Rock Tomb it, knock it down to low HP, and then I went for a close combat, ended up knocking him out, and then the final Pokemon will be a Buttergeist, which I'm able to switch out into my E-Bite. E-Bite is able to go for 3 Dragon Claws and knock out Erika as we get ourselves the 4th gym badge in the game. From there, we can move out. We evolve our Scyther into a Scizor. That's why it's a different form at this moment, but we're also going to beat down this Aegislash fusion, then get ourselves a Pokeflute, and then fully evolve. Oh my god, so cool. Look at that, so cool looking. A Garzor. Garzor looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh monster. It is insane looking. But from there, we're also going to evolve our Heracross into a Garchomp. Doesn't look that great. As you can see, I'm gonna put up a picture right now. I'm changed the appearance of my phone. It's supposed to look like that. It does not look like that at all. So I have to go out, catch a new Pokemon. I caught myself a Larvitar, and then we're gonna fuse that with our Garchomp that we unfused with our Heracross. So now we can just train up this thing. It's gonna be a little worse, which is unfortunate, but you know what? It's better for us. From there, we also go down Cycling Road and get ourselves a Clink. And then from there, we can merge that with our other Garchomps that we have on our team, which is very nice. It's going to be a pretty cool Pokemon later on. You'll see why. And then from there, we're going to move out into the Safari Zone, get one of our last Pokemons as we're going to get ourselves a Roselia. I was actually planning on getting a Blissey because I want to use some diverse Pokemon that don't look the same. But I searched up the fusion and apparently Roserade and Garchomp looks very nice. We'll see if we're disappointed or ecstatic when we actually get it. But we're going to fuse that real quick, and then we're going to quickly move on and face off against Koga next. Koga is the 5th gym leader in the game. We're going to start the battle off against him using my Garzor. And Garzor is able to go for an X-Scissor and one-shot the Illusion Zoro Nucleus, I believe. Something like that. I always forget the names of that. But then Koga's next Pokemon will be a Weeflame, which goes for a Flame Charge, but I'm able to two-shot it with a Dragon Claw. And his next Pokemon will be a Haunchvor, which I'm able to... Oh, he swaggers me, but I'm able to Bullet Punch him, eventually knock him out. Knock him out? Knock him out? Do I knock him out? No, I knocked myself out. Of course, I knocked myself out with confusion. I'm going to go into my Clingchomp, which you can already see how cool this thing looks. It's fully evolved. Gear Grind knocks him out really easily. And then his next Pokemon will be his actual Umterra, which I go for a few Gear Grinds, and I'm able to knock out the Umterra pretty easily. As we're able to get ourselves the 5th gym badge in the game. Go into Silphco next, and Silphco, a little bit of a maze, kind of annoying, but I actually got through this without saving everyone, so I lied in the last video. You don't have to save everyone, so that's good to know. From there, we're going to team up with our rival after beating him and then face off against Giovanni in this random double battle fight. We're able to clear through him pretty easily, as in not easy at all. We're going down to our last few Pokemon, but from there, we can move on and face off against Sabrina next. Sabrina is the 6th gym leader in the game. We're going to start the battle off against Sabrina using my Tyranichomp. Tyrannochomp's able to go for an Earthquake, immediately knock out the Sylveon or Sylveocean, and then her next Pokemon will be a Driftville. Which I'm able to go for a Crunch, lowers the defense, and then I try to go for a Dragon move against the obvious Fairy Pokemon. So I go for another Crunch. It's going to eventually knock out my Tyrannochomp, but that's completely fine as I'm able to go into my Garzor. Garzor is just cool looking. 2 Crunches would knock out this Driftville, even though I take an Aftermath. Her next Pokemon will be a Marikyu, which is going to one-shot my poor Garzor because I believe it's Bug and Dragon, right? It has to be Bug and Dragon. From there, I'll go out into my Clingchomp, which is able to go for a Gear Grind, knock out the Marikyu, and unfortunately, she's going to send out her Clefix next, which is going to be a Clefable and Steelix. I'm able to get some damage off against her, but she's eventually going to knock me out. I assume I went for Shift Gear, assuming she's going to go for a Full Restore or something, but she's going to knock me out with Seismic Toss, and I forgot to mention this. I didn't even show this part. I evolved my E-Bite into a Sylveon, so now it's a Sylvechomp, and it's able to two-shot the Clefix with Surf. So now I made Garchomp a special attacker, which is interesting. But from there, once we beat Sabrina, we could go into Cinnabar Island and finally get our Pokemon, finally get our Aerodactyl that we've been planning on for a long time. And we're gonna fuse that together with our Gibble, and then we're gonna train it up into a Garchomp, which is very nice. From there, we actually move out into Cinnabar Island's gym, and for the most part, I got a lot of the questions right. I think I missed 2 questions, which is great. I'm getting a lot better with the questions, that remembering what to do with them. And I swear Rock only has 3 weaknesses. Is Rock, Water, and Ground? No? I can't think of another one. But from there, we're going to face off against the gym leader in the game. We're going to face off against Blaine next. Blaine's going to start the battle off against us using a Clinkfurig, which I'm able to go into my Tyranichomp. One-shot it basically, but it has a Focus Sash. So I should have gone for another Earthquake as it heals up, but I go for another one after the fact, and I'm down to 10 HP. After a Gear Grind, the Clinkfurig, his next Pokemon will be a Xano, which I go for a Crunch, but he's going to knock me out with a Store Power. And now from there, I go out into my Sylvie-Chomp, which is able to go for a Moonblast and knock out the Xano. His next Pokemon will be an Allosaur, which I switch out and double out into my Garzor. Garzor is able to go for an Executor and one-shot him. And his final Pokemon will be a Toga Nucleus, which I'm going to go for a Bullet Punch. Unfortunately, I have to sack my Garzor, switch out into my Gyarados, which is able to go for an Iron Head and basically knock him out in 2 shots, as we're able to beat down Blaine and get our 7th Gym Badge in the game, which is very nice. Now from there, we're going to move on and face off against the Zapmo Kuno that Giovanni just fused together. Now the biggest threat to my team was the Ice one, the Ice Articuno head, and I for some reason started targeting down the Moltres head first. You know what, not the biggest brain, but from there we're able to just knock down the Articuno head, and then that last one is a Zapdos head. Can't really do too much against me, especially against my Tyranichomp, which I'm able to just knock out the rest of them, and we're able to beat down Giovanni. But that's not the last time, as we're going to go into his gym in Viridian City and then face off against him. So we're going to start the battle off against Giovanni using my Garzor. Garzor is able to go for an Executor and one-shot the Zoshin, which is a Zorak and a Persian. Pretty easy. His next Pokemon will be a Cuckhand, which I'm able to go into my Sylvie-Chomp. Goes for multiple serves. I go for a bunch of charms earlier, lowers his attack stat, and then assuming so, I fail a few times in this fight, so I knew he switched out a lot, so I went for Rock Tombs, but he didn't switch out, and I'm able to knock him out. His next Pokemon will be a Porylurk, which gets an attack raise, and I go for a Moonblast, does not do a lot of damage. So I went out into my Tyranichomp, which I'm able to take a Tri-Attack and then knock him out with a following Crunch, which is very nice. Force him into his Kekon, which is his ace Pokemon. I'm able to survive a Dragon Claw and then knock him out with a Dragon Rush. And his final Pokemon will be a Smearguard, which goes for a Hex, but I'm able to survive it, do a lot of damage to him as he knocks me out, and then go out into my Cling Charm, which looks so cool. I picked all of these Garchomp fusions because I just love Garchomp, so that's why I have like these specific ones. They look very cool, except the Roserade one. The Roserade one does not look like that, I can promise you that. From there, Garzor would sack himself to the Destiny Bomb as I'm able to beat down Giovanni. Now from there, we're going to move out into Victory Road, which isn't too difficult. I start using my Gyarados. I think it looked cooler in my head. It doesn't look that cool, and it's not that strong either. So, you know what, it's too late in the game at this point to even switch out. I guess I have to live with it for a little bit, but from there, we're going to move out and then teach all our Pokemon Earthquake, because, you know, Garchomp's main move is Earthquake. It's like to-go move. So basically teach everyone Earthquake and then face off against the Elite Four next. The first Elite Four member we're going to face off against is going to be Lorelei. We're going to start the battle off against Lorelei using my Tyranichomp. Tyranichomp's able to go for an Earthquake and easily one-shot Polygon. Surprisingly, did that much damage. Her next Pokemon will be a Swampray, which is Swampert and Luxray. Easily able to Earthquake it and knock him out. Her next Pokemon will be a Gyarados, which I know I can't one-shot him, even though it doesn't have Disguise. I'm able to Rock Tomb, lower the speed though, and then sack my Tyranichomp and switch out into my Rosechomp, which is able to knock him out with a Petal Blizzard. And his next Pokemon will be a Kingdrio, which knocks out my Rosechomp. But I'm able to go out into my Sylvie-Chomp. And Sylvie-Chomp's able to go for a Charm, get my HP, and then Moonblast, two-shot him, would knock out the Kingdrio. And then her next Pokemon will be a Malatina, which I said again, I go for a Moonblast. It goes for Aura Sphere, and it can't do any damage. It's so weak. I'm able to two-shot the Malatina, even though it's supposed to be the legendary Ace Pokemon. We're able to beat down the Malatina, and her final Pokemon will be a Spirimuku. I'm able to Wither down, even though it got Toxic on me, I'm able to knock him out with a Moonblast. And it inwards out me, but we still win the battle. So from there, we're going to move on and face out against Bruno next. Bruno is going to be the second Elite Four member and start the battle off against us using a Tyrannoflame, which I go out into my Gyarados, which is able to go for 2 Iron Heads to knock him out. And his next Pokemon will be his Octostar, which unfortunately I will go down to an Ice Beam, but I go out into my Rosechomp, which could deal with him pretty easily. Petal Blizzard, come on, eventually I will knock him out. No, I don't. Never mind. Rosechomp, garbage. So I will go out into my Cling Charm. Gear is able to go for a Shift Gear and then Earthquake to knock him out, which is an insane move to have on my Pokemon, as I'm able to Earthquake down the Probodon, which is Probopass, and Groudon goes down in one shot, and his final Pokemon will be his Marowak, which I'm able to go for an Earthquake and knock him out. Oh, he has more Pokemon. Armatops comes out, Earthquake him as well, and his final Pokemon will be a Cray, which I'm able to go for an Earthquake once again and knock out Bruno. So pretty easy fight, just sped through him. So from there, we're going to face off against Agatha next. Agatha's a bit longer. We're going to start the battle off against her using my Garchomp against her Clefairy, which I'm able to get a lot of damage off against and eventually knock out in like an eighth of the fight. It takes a long time for some reason. But her next one will be a Kroros, which I just sack my Garchomp, and then I can switch out into my Garchomp, which is able to get an Earthquake off with a Shift Gear, which is nice, and then Gear Grind to almost knock out the Dust Plume as it puts me to sleep. But eventually I'll wake up. Yeah, I'll wake up in a coma because he knocks me out. So I'm going to go out into my Garchomp. Garchomp is able to take a Petal Dance pretty easily, and then go on the offensive and then knock him out with a Bullet Punch. He then can switch out into a Fire type, a Chandelure, which I'm able to get a decent amount of damage off as it goes for a Fire Blast, and I live it. So I ended up knocking out the Chandelure, and then her next Pokemon will be an Umzing. And Umzing gets a flinch down, and we also knock him out in 2 shots. So that's super easy for us. Her next Pokemon will be a Mo, which I unfortunately will have to go down. I switch out into my Garchomp, which is easily going to go for a Stone Edge and one-shot it as we're able to beat down Agatha, and now we can move on and face off against Lance. Lance is technically the end of the Elite Four, as we're going to start the battle off against him using my Chomp. Now Chomp is a bit higher level, but it is for the last fight of the game. We're able to eventually actually stall out the Flame and knock him out easily. I actually wish I had the move Wish on my Chomp, because that would have made it so much better. But unfortunately, it's also going to go down to the Sceptidactyl, which is kind of cool looking. But I'm going to switch out into my Garchomp, which is able to get a bunch of Shift Gears up, and the battle should be pretty clear as I'm able to Dragon Claw and knock out the Sceptidactyl. His next Pokemon will be his Dark Knight, which I'm able to one-shot as well, and he has 2 Pokemon left. One of it is going to be a Chandelure, which I go into him. I do a bit of damage, but he's gonna knock me out with a Shadow Ball as I go out into my Garchomp, which is able to knock out the Chandelure, and his final Pokemon will be his Agemans. This is the Ace Pokemon. It does an Iron Head on me, but I do have Ice Fang, and it doesn't look like Ice Fang really wants to affect him. I think he might be part Steel type, everyone. I think he's a Steel Flying, I think. So from there, I go into my Garchomp. He does a bit of damage, but he goes down as well. I go out into my Pterodactyl. I know this thing can survive anything, and it dishes out a Stone Edge to knock him out, as we're able to beat down Lance pretty easily. And then from there, even easier fight, we're going to face off against Blue next, Champion Blue. We actually have a few outtakes of this, but fortunately enough, we do have a real take. And we're going to start the battle off against him using my Garchomp, because Garchomp has been pretty good this entire run. Against his Ninsharp, which has speed boost, I'm not too scared of that, because Shift Gear boosts speed by 2 stages and physical attacking by 1 stage, and I just need to break Ninsharp's Focus Sash and then lull him into a false sense of security as he goes for an attack against me, as I'm able to Earthquake and knock out the Ninsharp. His next Pokemon will be a Tarantion, which is going to be the mix of all the Sinnoh starters, but go down in 1 shot of an Earthquake, which is very nice. His next Pokemon will be his Chandelure, which I know this time it's actually not Fire type at all. So Gear Grind is pretty free as I'm able to one-shot it. His next Pokemon will be his Haxments, which I'm able to go for a 2 Dragon Claws against him to knock him out pretty easily, as I'm able to knock out the Haxments. And his next Pokemon will be an Array, which I get a few Gear Grinds against, but he's getting me down to low HP. Lucky enough, I had the sense of mind to switch out into my Garchomp, which is able to just take a move from the Array, didn't even hit back as the Life Orb would knock him out, as we're able to beat down Blue and keep all 6 of our Pokemon alive for the last fight as well. It's obviously not a Nuzlocke, but you know what, keeping them alive is cool, as we're able to beat this entire challenge using only Garchomp Fusion. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you guys can, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me. My name's been Alpha. Hope you guys all had a great day, and I'm out. Peace.